The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, celebrating KPTS's nearly 50 years of community support in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Support also comes from viewers like you. Thank you.
This is the program where the interesting personalities and power players of Kansas come to share their stories. This week, we talk with a woman who oversees the giving of many millions of dollars each year. Her mission is to make Wichita a better place to live for everyone. Shelly Prichard is president and CEO of the Wichita Community Foundation. The foundation's mission is to raise money and spend it on causes that impact the community from top to bottom. They range from efforts to help the less fortunate to helping the community find solutions to economic and social stagnation. It's a big responsibility with the potential to do a lot of good. But then Shelly Prichard has never been one to shy away from a challenge to do something positive. Her resume of professional and volunteer endeavors is long and wide-ranging, from the Indianapolis Zoo to Koch Industries to the Girl Scouts. She has been there and done that. Coming up, we'll discover what keeps Shelly Prichard going and going and going, and what new things may be on the horizons for this one-woman dynamo. So sit down and buckle up. One-on-One starts right now. Welcome to the show. I'm Victor Hogstrom, and it's a pleasure to welcome Shelly Prichard to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely, I'm thrilled.
Now, Shelly, you've done so many different things throughout your life. Where does that drive and that ambition come from?
Probably from my father. I grew up on a farm, and Dad was very supportive. Mom and Dad were very supportive. I had a really lovely upbringing, and Dad just always expected the best and taught us, I feel like gave us the mindset to do that and to succeed and to never just give halfway.
So, growing up on a farm, what is that one advice that your parents may have given you that seems to be very helpful today?
Always go the extra mile. That, you know, hard work is just, it's just an expectation that you work hard, a very strong ethical base with my family. And so I've just tried to apply those lessons that I learned growing up on the farm to everything that I've done in my career. So
you've mentioned farm several times now.
Yeah.
You grew up on a farm.
I grew up on a farm, yep.
Were you a farm girl?
Yes.
What did you do?
Well, we had about 150 cows and grew up just north of Newton, but my dad was also a veterinarian. And so he worked 60 or 70 hours a week, and I don't have any brothers, so my two sisters and I took care of the cows along with Mom and Dad, so I can weld. I've taught many men how to change tires. So all those kinds of things that people are stereotypically think about boys on the farm, we did, because that's just what we did. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So what took you away from the farm? You grew up on the farm, you would think, having two daughters, your parents having, that you want to inherit the farm and keep the tradition of farming in the family.
Yeah, well, and I was planning to follow in my dad's footsteps to be a veterinarian. And then when I was a junior in high school, I had a very influential journalism teacher. Her name is Bonnie Short. We're friends to this day. And she convinced me that I had a promising career as a writer. So I pursued journalism when I went on to K-State for school, but still always have the love of the farm. The house I own now has 1/3 of an acre because I need my space. I love being outside with the dog and my family and doing those sorts of things.
So let's talk about that teacher. What did she see in you that caused her to really encourage you toward journalism?
What she told me is that I'm interested in people, and at K-State I pursued a degree in magazine journalism because I I'm not good at the stories where you have a 2-hour window to turn in the deadline. I like the ones where you have 6 weeks and you get to research and you really get to know the people that you're talking to. And she convinced me that that was a way, with my skills of talking, kind of my best skill, but I love to know people and to understand what drives them and to see what their motivation is and to see what I can learn from them, and how together we can do things for the world. And so I went after a degree in journalism, and it's been a really fantastic degree for me.
And so when your father and mom heard about this direction, what was their reaction?
Oh, they were okay with it. They were okay.
They were?
So yeah.
So where's the farm now?
Well, my dad unfortunately died several years ago in a car accident. Mom still lives on the farm, and she doesn't have animals, but she leases it out to people who use the pens for animals. So it's still, there's still a place to go, still a farm to go to, and I take my dog to the park, and we spend a fair amount of time outside as well. And on those really cold, snowy mornings, I don't miss getting up to feed the cows at early in the morning, or there were several 4th of July celebrations we had to miss because we were baling hay or those kinds of things.
So the farm life was the way you lived as you were growing up.
Yes.
And you became a journalist. Why didn't you pursue journalism?
My first job out of college was, and I combined those two things. I worked for Softland Publishing Company and worked for 2 magazines that addressed agribusiness and grain production. And so I was able to bring those two things together. And then moved around a fair bit in the first part of my life, and then got into nonprofit management and work actually at the Indianapolis Zoo, was the membership director there. And so it was still the animals, so that's always been kind of a part of that.
Right.
And then I love talking to people, and I love the concept of working with an organization with a strong mission.
When you were growing up, did you ever think you would become a journalist?
I didn't until in high school when Bonnie was my teacher and talked about those things. So early on, I didn't think that would be the case. But
you decided, I would call it hard journalism and soft journalism, and you went toward the soft side.
Well, and there for a while when I was really young, I was going to be the director of the Indianapolis Zoo and the editor of the National Geographic at the same time. When I was 8 or 9, those were my career goals. So, so I think that I've always kept a journal, and I still actually have those from when I was, a middle school kid, and they're hilarious because of the middle school drama and those sorts of things. So it's just reading and writing have always been very, very important in my life.
So after you graduated from college, you went to Indianapolis?
There were, a few. First stop was Kansas City, and then went on to Indianapolis.
Kansas City. Okay. What did you do in Kansas City?
That was Softland Publishing Company was there.
All right. Yeah. So what brought you back to Kansas?
Kansas. I wanted to be in Kansas. My family was here, and so we made the decision that we wanted to come back home. I didn't want to have to drive 12 hours to see my mom and my sisters, so we came back. I'm actually a 6th generation Kansan. My family came here by covered wagon.
Wow.
And homesteaded down by Winfield. So I feel like I belong here. You
just love the place.
I do.
You've worked for several companies here. Cook, the Girl Scouts, and what else? Well,
and Youth Entrepreneurs. So I was at Koch Industries for a couple of years, and then was at Youth Entrepreneurs for 9. And that's way back when it was still Youth Entrepreneurs of Kansas, so much, much smaller than the organization they've grown it to now. So I was there for 9 years, and then Girl Scouts, so still working with youth programs and the idea of helping youth get into leadership roles and understanding the importance of education and defining what it is that they want for their lives, just like my dad did for me.
Right. So tell us about your own family.
Okay. So I don't have children, but I have a fantastic husband, Cameron, and he has 3 kids. And so while I didn't have kids, I have grandkids now, which is awesome. And so we have Hannah, who lives in Oklahoma City, and she has Jocelyn, who's 4. And then Zach and Sarah live in southern Indiana, and they have Levi, who's 1.5. And then Cameron's son, Corbin, is a freshman at Wichita State this year. And then we have our dog Lando that we just got from Humane Society a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You also decided that Wichita is the place to come to be home. You've directed, as we've mentioned, you were in the Girl Scouts organization as an employee. Koch Industries. How did you go to the Wichita Community Foundation?
Well, I'd been at the Girl Scouts for about 5 years, and then Brian Black, a community leader here who now, unfortunately, his job with Spirit has taken him to Tulsa. But Brian Black called. He was on the board at the Community Foundation and said, hey, this job is opening. And I knew a little bit about the Community Foundation just because we would come and ask for funding at the Girl Scouts, but really thought about a long-term place that we could be and a place that I could potentially make impact. And so threw my name, threw my hat in the ring, not knowing what would come, because I love the Girl Scouts and had a wonderful experience there, especially interacting with the girls. And when you sell cookies as a part of your job, that's a pretty good gig. But and so I was hired at the Community Foundation almost 6 years ago.
So you've been on both sides, helping to give money away to an advisor's fund and asking for money from a nonprofit side.
Yes.
Compare and contrast.
It's definitely more fun to give it away. But it's so important that, I've had my friends, when I got into fundraising, would say, oh, how can you beg for money all day? And my answer was, I don't beg for money. When I was at the Girl Scouts, I gave people the opportunity to invest in their future, because these are their future employees, their future mayors. These are young women, and then at Youth Entrepreneurs, men and women who are going to be leading our country. And I'm proud to be a part of helping them be successful. It's great. Foundation work is amazing and wonderful, but it's not as easy as people think. Right. And everybody always rolls their eyes when you say this, but giving away money is easy. Giving away money well is really difficult. Because as you know,
what's the difference?
Well, you can write checks all day long, but you may not be having impact. It may not be to organizations who are strong and growing. It may be to organizations who don't have a good leader in place or a good business model in place. So to do it and do it well and make sure there's impact is very different than just writing a check.
So what does the donor look for in an organization?
It really depends on what motivates the donor. Some are very interested in, operating checks. They understand that you got to keep the lights on, you got to pay the salaries, and those are fine. Other people want to be very project specific. We're seeing a shift of people moving back to more operational funding, which I'm glad for. That's the hardest money to raise. So it really is very driven by the donor's individual wishes, and we just try to facilitate that for them. So
how did that degree in journalism and all of your experiences prepare you for a position such as this one?
Well, literally my job is to understand people and their wishes. And so I think the interview skills, I had lunch with a donor today and asked him what his long-term intent is for his giving. And so we had a whole conversation about that. So in a sense, I was interviewing him to find out his wishes after his death and what he wants to do with his fund. So just that whole conversation of talking with people, I think, was very helpful. And then paying attention to the details, because it really does matter to someone if they, if I make a mistake in what the number I write down on something, or if they say one thing and I, put an organization that's a little bit different or whatever. Obviously that has huge impact. So paying attention and just that interest in people, it's been wonderful at the foundation.
So Shelly, Wichita has a lot of very wealthy people. How generous are they in contributing to local nonprofits?
I think they're very generous. It's interesting because sometimes people will say, oh, so-and-so should give to me. Well, maybe their particular mission isn't close to so-and-so's heart, but that person is very generous with another organization or other cause. So, and some people are very private about their giving. We do have some funds at the Community Foundation that are anonymous. So that's kind of where I'm in the know on a few things that other people don't know. And there's literally, I've had somebody say, oh, he never gives any money anywhere. Well, he does through us. He just prefers to be quiet. Yeah. So I see an amazing amount of generosity here in Wichita.
The Wichita Community Foundation is also leading an effort to identify the economic challenges that Wichita faces and try to arrive at solutions. There's been a lot of discussion lately about the Chung report that your foundation has been funding.
And we brought James here. It's actually the Bastion family they're funding the Chung report separately. So we've started the work with James, and then they took on that work to kind of continue that conversation, along with like their Bravely Onward ad campaigns, but just the idea of continuing that. And that's what they chose as a family to help keep that conversation going in Wichita.
So what was the beginning of that work?
Well, we used to do a lot of $10,000 and $20,000 gifts. We gave away a lot of money that way. And then at our 25th anniversary, we decided to step back. This was before I was there. The board decided to step back and really think, what kinds of problems can we solve? What kinds of questions can we ask? So we didn't give away any of the funds the foundation controls for a couple of years. And then we met James Chung, and we asked him to consider a community scorecard. A lot of community foundations do that. And he said they don't really do that. That's kind of a backward-looking view of the city. And they do what he calls predictive analytics, so looking forward. And we said, you know, let's give that a shot. So that was 3 years ago, and so we hired him to come in and look at where Wichita is and the kinds of things we're going to need to do to continue to grow as a city going forward.
So this report now, as it progressed, it detailed some real concerns about the direction Wichita has been headed over the past 30 years, and also considered its failure to chart progressive and prosperous paths. How much do you agree with that report?
I agree with it. There have been detractors, but what we've seen, and there's a lot of factors that have contributed to that, and some things just, you know, our entrepreneurial cycle, people talk about Pizza Hut and Rent-A-Center and all those things, but we need to talk more about Freddy's and some of these other things that are going on, but that churn had slowed down for a while. I think it's really picking back up. But I think part of some of people's struggles with this is we're Kansas nice. I've heard that over and over. That we're nice, we're warm, we're friendly, and we don't want to say anything negative. But sometimes you have to have these challenging conversations and get it on the table and then talk about it. It's not that I'm picking on you or somebody else. I love the city. If I didn't love it, I'd move someplace else. We just want to make sure we're having the right conversations and taking intentional action to move our city forward.
You've said you love the city. In your mind, what is the best thing about Wichita?
Oh, there's so many things that are so good, and depending on what I had for dinner last night, it could be food. I think there's amazing food. I'm not going to give you one answer, Victor. I think there's amazing food. I think there's tremendous cultural opportunities. I think the production that I saw at Wichita Music Theater of Hairspray was better than John Travolta on TV. I think there's so many of those things, and just the community, our zoo is world-renowned. When I worked at the Indianapolis Zoo, people in Indy would talk about how fantastic the Sedgwick County Zoo had been, and I didn't realize what a gem that was. So I guess my favorite thing about Wichita is the whole package, which I know is kind of cheating as an answer, but just really, really what this place has to offer.
Right.
And if I need to get back to my farm roots, I can drive an hour and go hiking in the Flint Hills and not see another person all day if I don't want to.
What is the worst thing about Wichita that you dislike?
I think it's our attitude about ourselves. I think some people are so negative about this city, and often I find it's people who've never lived anyplace else. It's kind of the grass is always greener syndrome, but it's a great place, and people just have to give it a chance.
Okay, so let's take a little break and go a little lighter here.
Okay.
All right, and we'll play a little game.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you two options, and you tell me which is more important to you. All right? Intelligence or kindness?
Oh, kindness.
And why?
I think you can always find somebody who's smarter than you or is an expert on something, and they can help you figure something out. But if you're not kind, you're going to burn every bridge before you even have the chance to find those people to help you.
So true. Books or music?
Books. I love to read. Being an English journalism major, books and words have always been an important part of my life. I enjoy music, but spend more time with books and words. You're
taking part in the Great American Read.
I am, yes. And the Community Foundation was thrilled to work with KPTS to sponsor that.
Well, we appreciate that too. Great experiences or beautiful things?
Great experiences, definitely, definitely. I have some beautiful things in my life, but when I think about what I want to recreate for my family and my nieces and my stepkids is the experience part of it. Because anybody can have a thing, but the experience is with you forever.
Okay, so now finish the sentence that I'll make, and you finish it up.
Okay.
One thing I like about myself is?
That I'm tall.
Huh?
I love being tall. I can help people reach things at the top shelf of the grocery store. I can see over the crowd. I have a hard time finding pants that are long enough, but other than that, I've always liked being tall. One
thing I dislike about myself is?
I talk too much.
Not so far.
Well, everybody has things they dislike about themselves, so how they look or act. But I'm almost, well, I am 53, and so some of that is less important than it used to be.
Okay, so you have lived here, you've worked in various places, you have an interesting, and I may add exciting background.
Oh, thank you.
So by what philosophy should the people of Wichita live by, based on your experience?
Yeah. Well, I think I've had to have, I had a friend of mine told me one time that Shelly, you always have to have a cause. I have to be working on something I believe in, whether it's with youth entrepreneurs and those kids, obviously the Girl Scouts, or at the Community Foundation to work to make our whole community a better place, or my involvement with Rotary, just the idea of being a part of something that's bigger than me and that gives me the opportunity to interact with other people and work together as a group, because a lot of people can get things done a lot faster than one person can.
Now, you are the current president of the Rotary Club of Wichita.
I am.
How does that fit into your future plans?
Well, I've been a Rotarian for about 20 years and have always been fairly active, but it wasn't until I was asked to be president that I really dug into the depths of this amazing organization and what it's done worldwide. Rotary has done a huge amount of work to stamp out polio around the country. Right. And I had the opportunity to go to the International Convention this year and met Rotarians literally from across the world. So Rotary is a part, I guess, of this overall life mission we've been talking about, of working with people, working as a group to make progress going forward. And I think sometimes when I talked earlier about these hard conversations we're having in Wichita, Rotary is very diverse. We're the 16th or 17th largest club in the world. And you think about, we have to make sure that it's not just people who look like me and are my age and from my demographic who are part of that organization. So that's been really fun as president to have the opportunity to bring in younger people, people of different ethnicities and socioeconomic backgrounds, to have them see Rotary and to have Rotarians see them and see what they can do for our community.
So then, based on that experience that you have out of life, working in all these places, now head of the foundation and president of Rotary, who is Shelly Prichard?
Well,
what has all of those experiences turned you into, has made of you?
I would say someone who is not afraid of working, not afraid of hard work, and increasingly not afraid to challenge the status quo, and understanding that if you do have positions of influence and leadership, that it's your responsibility to not lie low, that you can't be quiet and stand in the corner, because there are others who need you to guide them, lead that way. And then just the absolute importance of finding other people who want to move into those roles and helping them, whether it's mentorship, or I like the word championing actually better, because you can mentor somebody all day long, but the idea of really helping create a path for someone to be successful is really important.
What has been the most defining moment of your life?
Well, it's not positive, but my dad was killed in a car wreck many years ago. I was 20. And so that was when I really knew that I had to help my mom. I had a little sister, I had an older sister who had moved to Colorado. So just the idea of you can't go, you can't be sad and be in the corner. You have to step up and move past that. And there's a time to grieve, but you have to lead and you have to help people around you. And then look for those silver linings of those bad things in your life and bank on those and understand those and grow from those experiences yourself, and then help other people grow when they have tragedy in their life as well. And
that takes someone with determination to conclude such a thing.
Well, I hope so.
And you have that. So what has been then your greatest, most joyous experience?
Oh gosh, I've had a really blessed life. It probably evolves around some of the trips that I've taken and the places I've been able to go. With my husband and Cameron, we were in the Holy Land last year, or 2 years ago, which was a really, really humbling experience to think about that history, and with the church, and just walking where Jesus walked and those sorts of things. So I don't know. Again, I'm not giving you very direct answers, but I think it's hard to pinpoint one experience, but it's involved people who are important in my life, and some sort of experience to where you get uncomfortable. I had the opportunity to go to Istanbul a few years ago and went into a mosque, and it was literally the first time in my life somebody told me I couldn't do something. And that kind of got my attention. But has made me be more inclusive, I think, and understand other cultures in a much deeper way than I had before that.
So if you were charged, Shelly, with the one responsibility of determining the direction or a vision for Wichita,
okay.
what would you say it should be?
Well, I think there's many people working in that regard now. I think the work that the Greater Wichita Partnership is doing with Project Wichita, the work the mayor's group is doing on Century 2. So there's a lot of people moving in the right direction. And I would encourage them just to continue to talk and talk and talk to each other.
So what is that direction?
Well, I think it's...
What is Wichita becoming?
Wichita is becoming a place that's cool to be here. Somebody said the other day, we're getting our mojo back, and I think that's true. And as weird as it is, the number of craft breweries is an indication of the success of a community, and we're blossoming in that regard. So just the idea that I want Wichita to be a place that your children want to be here, and that they feel like they have good employment, they have a good lifestyle, they can raise their family here, but they also have plenty of entertainment, and that it's very inclusive, and that there's people of every color and background and religion and whatever the diversity measures are, that Wichita is that place that they can be.
What can we expect from Shelly Prichard in 10 years?
Well, I hope I'm still at the foundation. I hope we've grown so large that we have to either expand our office or move to another building because we've grown our staff. We've grown from 5 to 7 in the time that I've been here, and we're at capacity now. So we're trying to figure out what comes next. So I hope this is a job I can still do in 10 years. And I have a couple books I'm going to write someday, so maybe I'll have one of those done by then. So one of them is about my experiences growing up in Kansas and the stories my grandparents told me. So I hope to capture some of that importance of the farm life and my love to my upbringing and my family and share those stories.
What's the one story that stands out in your mind?
It involves going into my grandmother's shelter, because the old farmhouse, and they had a tornado shelter built back into a hill. And Grandma was a farm woman. She canned and had gardening and everything. Had a garden. And I remember there was a tornado outside, and my grandpa, we went in there, and there's spider webs, and I was little. It was horrible, scary. And Grandpa said, "Well, we know we won't starve to death because we always have Grandma's canned beets." And I remember thinking, I'd rather die in the tornado than eat canned beets. So, but now I like beets. So see, I've grown as well. So, but just stories like that, and stories that my grandparents shared. Because my mom's heritage is Czechoslovakian, so that was my dad's heritage is Scottish. Okay. So just some of those kinds of stories, and about the importance of family and what you learn growing up on a farm, those kinds of stories.
Can't wait for that book to come out.
Well, you might be the only one who can't wait, Victor, but I'll make sure to get you a signed copy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
And thank you for taking the time to watch. Email your questions or comments to oneonone@kpts.org. We read every one of them. Until next time, I'm Victor Hogstrom. Take care.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, supporting KPTS and the communities it serves in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Support also comes from viewers like you. Thank you. For a free copy of this program, become a new member of KPTS for a $40 contribution. If you are already a member, just send $25 for shipping and handling. Be sure to include the program's name, date, and time.